friends. Welcome to episode 299 of School Librarians United. I am your host, Amy Herman. This podcast is dedicated to the issues and challenges school librarians face every day. As a school librarian in my 19th year, I knew I wanted a podcast which addressed the nuts and bolts of running a successful library program. I don't claim to have the answers, but I hope that this is a platform to share resources and exchange ideas. Now is a perfect time to mention that all the ideas and opinions expressed in this podcast by myself, my interview guests, and listeners who reach out to the podcast are our own and do not reflect those of our school districts. When incorporating research, I always make sure to cite my sources. So whether you are a novice or a veteran school librarian, this podcast has something for you. I welcome you and all listeners to reach out with your feedback and episode suggestions. You can reach me either on Facebook, on X, formerly known as Twitter. My handle is at LMS_United. On Instagram and Threads, you can find me at School Librarians United, and on Blue Sky at SLU Podcast, or the email address schoollibrariansunited@gmail.com. If you include your mailing address, I'll be sure to send you a podcast sticker. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Learnics, which is our newest podcast sponsor. If you are overwhelmed with managing student research projects and wish there were a better way to guide students towards credible sources and ethical research practices, then you need to try Learnics. Learnics automatically documents your students' research journeys, capturing their searches, website visits, and notes. Learnics then organizes the students' notes, created perfectly formatted bibliographies, and even generates a snapshot report, which reveals key insights into how the students conduct research. With Learnics, you can provide personalized feedback, identify research challenges, and teach information literacy skills more effectively. Visit Learnics.com to learn more and schedule a demo. If you mention that you learned about Learnics on this podcast, you will receive 20% off your subscription. And now a word from our sponsor, Capstone. Capstone is an innovative publisher and education technology provider of children's content for school libraries, classrooms, and at-home learning. Home of the award-winning PebbleGo research database, Capstone has a passion for creating inspired learning and intellectual curiosity in children, and I'm so excited to be working with them. I'm also grateful to Capstone for their commitment to support the podcast in Season 7. They are offering listeners of School Librarians United a very special discount. Visit shop.capstonepub.com and use the code UNITED to get $20 off an order of $100 or more for both print and Capstone interactive ebooks. That's code UNITED for $20 off an order of $100 or more for both print and ebooks on shop.capstonepub.com. Friends, this weekend I attended SLJ Summit 24 in Raleigh, North Carolina. This conference has been on my radar and bucket list for many years. When the email came out earlier this year, I jumped at the opportunity and responded immediately in the hopes of getting one of the very limited tickets. The registration for this conference is always free, which explains the demand, and my understanding is that approximately 250 tickets are available, at which point a waitlist is started. I reached out to my friend Diana Rendina, and guest on the show, who is also attending, and we shared a room to keep our expenses down. I met up with the New Hampshire school librarians in the airport, and I easily found the Florida school librarians as soon as I entered the hotel lobby. This conference brings school librarians together from all over the country, and I was treated to a variety of informal gatherings, large and small sessions, and meals with friends from Friday to Sunday afternoon. To make this conference even more exciting, I received an invitation to join Steve Tatro in co-facilitating a session. Longtime listeners to the podcast know that Steve holds the record for the most appearances on this podcast, 7 to be exact. Steve and I were conversation facilitators of a group of librarians sharing reading and collection development strategies. I have decided that this podcast really is just a weekly opportunity to be a conversation facilitator, so I felt very practiced and prepared for our session together. My hope is that some of you may decide to attend this conference in the future. And because life is never without its unexpected twists and turns, it is worth mentioning that I am recording this portion of the podcast from the airport terminal in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania at 11 o'clock at night. Our flight from Raleigh to Detroit took an unexpected but very necessary detour after I believe there was an electrical fire in the cockpit because the captain alerted us to some possible smoke in the cabin, and we saw flashing lights of the emergency vehicles as we landed on the tarmac After they confirmed that we could safely disembark, we pulled in and waited for another plane to take us to Detroit. We are expected to land around 2 a.m., and the plan is I am going to work on Monday. And now for today's episode, School Library Journals Summit 2024, and my conversation with the school librarians attending this conference in Raleigh, North Carolina.
My name's Erica Flory, and I work at Zebulon Elementary in Wake County. My library is fantastically decorated with characters, just like my ski.
So, friends, I'm sorry that you can't be here to witness the true commitment when it comes to ink and your canvas. Would you go into some explanation as to what you have invested when it comes to it's your left arm and it is a sleeve and it's a work in progress? Tell listeners how you wear your love of children's literature.
I am such a fangirl of kid lit authors and illustrators, and I have asked their permission to have their art on my body, and they are so excited when I show them pictures of the updates. So it's in a process of adding more. It's probably going to end up being on the second arm as well. But I just love illustrations.
Would you please, because this is an audio format, would you give listeners just an idea, because it is a full color sleeve and you've integrated it beautifully. I assume you're working with the same artist. Who are some of the children's lit characters that you would get to see if you were in person?
All right, you would see Jasper Rabbit with his creepy underwear, the creepy carrots, and the creepy crayon. You would see Piggy and Gerald, the pigeon, Narwhal and Jelly, Kipper, the dog, Pigeon, Knuffle Bunny, Max and Ruby, and then there's a dragon from an author illustrator from across the pond.
Friends, as somebody who is terrified of needles, I have the utmost respect for anybody who's willing to endure this kind of, it just seems to me like it's definitely a labor of love.
Absolutely worth the pain.
Wow. And, clearly your children, your students, I'm sure are impressed with your devotion to children's literature. Can I ask, is there another author illustrator that you're trying to reach out to?
Not yet, because I have a whole list that I'm working with my artist. It's Mad Ethel's. Ember is the artist if you ever need one in Raleigh. And it's probably going to end up being on my second arm because there's things like Maisie Mouse and some other characters I would love to have, but I just don't have enough arms, so it might be everywhere.
Well, I appreciate you just chatting it up, and I'm so impressed, and I'm so grateful that you had a chance to talk with us. And I'll be honest, when you do those searches for those tattoos and library and inspired tattoos, I'll be honest, this is the first time I've really seen it in person. And I am still terrified of needles and I'm not going to get a tattoo, but I'm awfully impressed with the people who do.
Tattoos are like potato chips. You can't stop with just one. And I don't do needles like blood. You take blood at me, I pass out, but this I can handle because it's a different kind of pain. And it's something that you're passionate about. So yeah, I love it.
Well, and I imagine it's something of a conversation piece with people who are non-librarians.
Absolutely. I get people just walking up to me on the street, or at the shopping center or whatever, saying, I love your ink. What's it about? And, asking questions. So it's really engaging. And then with the kids, they recognize, they point out, I know who that is. I know who that is.
I love it. Well, listen, thank you so much for joining me today. And I appreciate everything that you've shared with listeners. Have a great conference.
Thanks so much.
My name's Jennifer Dowdle. I work in Farmington, Arkansas, and I'm a K-3 school.
So what is it you want to share with listeners today?
So one of the things that I've developed over the years is a way of getting my students to absolutely love reading for fun.
Okay, so inquiring minds want to know, well, what is the magic trick? First of all, specifically, which age group is this especially successful?
So this year, in the last couple of years, my second graders really have taken off with it. But even knowing my kindergartners, my first graders, and third graders, they all get going with it. My kindergartners, we do it where you're reading and listening. I pair them up with sometimes the second graders because they're my top, readers. So we pull them in and say, hey, let's read to a kindergartner. I've used programs in the past that quiz. I've used programs in the past that earn points. This year, I've introduced a new program that I actually learned about at this School Library Journal Summit last year. It's called Beanstack. And I challenge them. Read how many minutes? I'm finding that I've got teachers that read, and they really encourage their kids to read. They log their minutes. They earn the badges. They absolutely love it. When they come to library, I tell them, oh, we're this close to meet the school goal. Beanstack store is next week. Once a month, we do rewards. And it's just one of those things they're absolutely loving. And I have parents that come to me and say, my child is reading more at home than they've ever read.
Well, listeners, Beanstack is not standing over here paying us for this little promo. So it's basically the gamification of reading. You have taken it and you've made it into basically almost a competition, but kids can brag about how much they've accomplished.
Yes, and the fact that they can read literally anything. And that for my kids has been huge. They say, can we read a magazine? Can we read something that's not in the system? I said, yes. If it's a book, if it's something that you've reading, read it.
Well, and as somebody who grew up, reading newspapers and comic strips, and I love reading the news and nonfiction. So it was always hard for me when the only thing that was really considered real reading were chapter books, and that just didn't connect with me and the way my brain is wired. So let me ask you, you're really excited about using Beanstack. What are some other things that you do in your library that really make it special for the students who come in every day?
So I really pay attention to what my kids have an interest in. When they say, hey, do we have any books on Sonic? I work and I get that book because I know that that's going to pull that student in. I've had students say, I don't like to read. And so then my question is, what do you like to watch? What do you like to do? What do you like to this? So I now have the entire NFL series, the entire MLB series, the entire NBA series, and we talk football and basketball and baseball. And we've had kids want soccer, so now I have soccer. So I listen to my kids. I get them interested. We preview the new books.
I love that. And if there's one thing kids love to do is spend somebody else's money.
For sure. But they also help raise it.
Okay, now I'm dying to know how.
So every year, instead of a book fair, because of my littles, it's kind of hard. Parents don't like to send the money. And I hate to say it, but COVID was a good thing for that. And I do a readathon every year. They log their reading. They ask families. I'm very open with my families on what I spend the money on. I tell the kids, this is what your money that you raise goes for. It goes for books. It goes for prizes. It goes for the programs we use. And then when I get the books in, I'm like, okay, remember that money? They're like, yep. I said, well, here it is. Here's what you guys just bought with it. And so I'm so open with my families and my kids about it because it's so important that they know what we're doing with it.
Well, and I'm curious, at what point of the year is best that you found to do a readathon? Because I know that there's such a thing as, fundraising fatigue. You don't want to overwhelm our families.
Oh, for sure. So I have done it usually right around January, February. Last year, I did it at the very end of the year. That was not ideal, but they did really well with it. So I find if we don't do it in the beginning, when everybody is trying to get it, I try to do it more towards after the holidays, when everything's calmed down a little bit, and we get to go and we do that.
Outstanding. I'm so grateful. The conference technically hasn't even started yet. And I met a librarian from Arkansas. This has never happened. So I'm really excited. I am so glad we're here together, and we're going to definitely have to connect later on. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, I'm Emily Gideon, and I am from Duval County, Florida, and I work at a Title I school. It has 65% Spanish-speaking students, 13 languages. And so we have a lot of things going on in that school.
Wow. It sounds like you've got a lot of moving parts. You've got a lot of people you need to consider. But I want to ask you, librarians are incredibly opinionated people. We have real strong opinions about what best serves our students and what we can do. We're always incredibly well-intentioned. I'm really curious because we're always looking for solutions to the problems that we have. And I want to hear about something that you were doing that's rather innovative
And let me hear about how it's going.
A couple years ago, I started doing a genre bingo. There are 9 categories. And the students were encouraged to check out a book from each genre each week. Well, they're going to come up every single week with the same genre because it's easy to find the dragon book or it's easy to find the dinosaur book. That's what I'm just going to check that out. And I don't want extra work for myself. So I'm not going to say, well, leave that here and go find another book. But I found that they weren't ever checking out the different genres. And it was important for me that I find out what are they learning about the different sections of the library. Can they find a different book, even if they wanted to? And if they haven't learned that, how are they going to do it? And how am I going to know what they've learned? So this year, I said, you have to get a different book. They bring up their genre bingo sheet. They show me what they've checked out before because they're recording which book that they've read. And so they bring up another fantasy book. I'm like, sorry, I already checked out a fantasy book. You need to go find a poetry book. Well, where's poetry? Well, we went over that. Look at the wall. It's written up on the wall. Oh, I give them a point and, hey, Johnny over there by poetry, will you help your friend find a poetry book? So there is free choice. I know that's a big thing with librarians. Kids need to have their choice with reading books. But as a teacher librarian, I really feel like this is a good assessment process. And it's given me a whole bunch more work that I don't want, shelving all these books that these kids are bringing out. But I really feel proud that these kids are learning the different types of books and where they're located in the library.
Well, I'm guessing that a few of your students have surprised themselves when they realize their librarian is right in that there are other kinds of books they might be interested in.
Oh, yeah. One of the categories is world countries. So they go over there and they're like, oh, I want to read about El Salvador. That's where my family is from. So that's been a real fun to see.
Well, and it also helps you build out your collection in a way that introduces your students to a wide variety of different interests and different genres. Because we all have had those students who are so dare I use the word stuck or in a rut. It explains why we have, every breed of cats, or we have those dinosaur sections that are, taking over, or the train section, or, I'm just thinking about when my students were heavily into a certain kind of book, and at some point, their parents actually would reach out to me and say, my kid's bringing home the same books every single week. Could you help me out a little?
So I look at it as a mom. So when I have 4 kids, when they were growing up, yeah, they got to check out their Dive Olympic hit book. But I said, hey, let's pick out this other book too. So the kids get to check out in the morning any book that they want. So if they're so motivated, they want a different book, they can come in the morning and get whatever book they want. But during library time, they're gonna try something different.
I love that what you're expecting your students to do is really sort of challenge themselves to explore and to strengthen their skills as a reader at the same time.
Absolutely. And it's gamified. Because when they get 3 in a row, they get to go check out a graphic novel. So a graphic novel is the reward.
So, Emily, I'm so glad I was able to catch up with you. I hope you have a fantastic rest of the conference.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Stacy. I am a library media specialist in the state of Maryland, Baltimore County.
So let me ask you, this isn't the first time you come to a school library journal summit. What is it about these conferences that brings you back to this conference? And this is your second one that you've been to, yeah?
Yes. I like the fact that there are librarians here, librarian supervisors, but they've been librarians, most of them at some point in their life. I'm learning new things. One of the hot new topics, as we all know, is AI. So I'm really interested in that conversation tomorrow. However, you get to see people you know, friends you meet throughout the years. And definitely it's nice to see faces with names, but it's also just nice to have those conversations and feel warm and fuzzy with people who really get you.
Well, and we can be friends who text most of the year, but every once in a while, having that personal connection really does reinforce that friendship and collegiality that is so important for us because we do lean on each other. I know when we exchange texts in a larger group, this sort of is important to creating that foundation of a friendship, a professional relationship that you can call upon one another when we're really having a bad time.
Absolutely. I enjoy the conversations in addition to the robust schedule that they have this year. I really like it. I think it gives you plenty of options. I had the opportunity, even in the breakout sessions today, to peek in one and kind of move on to another one just to get more information. Adding things to your toolbox is always a lot of fun. And also, like I said, just seeing people and smiling and hugging and just catching up. You hear about different issues or different innovative ideas that people are implementing into their library programs all the time. But just to be able to put faces with names and see people in person is just wonderful.
Well, and this is a national conference, and I think that that's really important because it's so easy to lose sight of things when we are sort of deep in the issues that we're dealing with in the immediacy of our libraries. But you come to a space where we as professionals, this is a cross-section of the entire country. And I feel that that's a really powerful way to learn from one another.
I absolutely agree with you. And you also get to meet new people too. Every conference that I've attended, this one in particular, you meet new people and people are wanting to be here. They have either used their own personal time or really advocated for time off to be here and justify why they should be here with their administrators and coordinators.
Well, I know I'm feeling a lot better now that I've been here for a while, and I know that I will be a better school librarian going back to my space. I feel energized. I feel supported. I've got some great ideas, and this is the kind of, it really does revitalize you in a way that just a weekend can't. So I feel like this is really a great use of our time.
I totally agree. I truly enjoyed the session today that I attended. About marketing, and it was wonderful. And, it's also nice to just have that check-in to know that, wow, I am doing some awesome things in terms of marketing. And guess what? I learned from somebody else today, and they learned from me.
Exactly. And this is about lifting us as a profession and making sure that all of us benefit because at the end of the day, our profession and how it's regarded nationally is vitally important to how the states are going to address how their school librarians are supported moving forward. Listen, Stacey, I'm so grateful you're here and we were able to connect. I hope you have a fantastic holiday. And we've got tomorrow still. That's kind of exciting, too.
I hope to do as well. And thank you so much for this opportunity.
Will you come back in 2025 and maybe join me for an episode?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
So I'm Diana Rendina, and I am a school librarian at an independent school. In Tampa, Florida, we're a 6 through 12 school.
Fantastic. And this is not your first School Library Journal Summit?
No. I have been to 2 summits previously, which somehow they were 8 years ago, which I can't believe it's been that long. But I went in DC and in Seattle.
So listeners are wondering, what makes coming to this conference so unique and special? And why would you recommend it to anybody tuning in right now?
Well, what I love about SLJ Summit is that it's a very intimate conference. So it's a small group. We're all school librarians. We're all in the same room the whole day. And you get these opportunities to have a lot of conversations that I think the really big conferences just don't have enough time for.
Yeah, I love the networking component of this because it really does invite those opportunities. There's a lot of chances to sort of mix and mingle. So let me ask, is there something in particular that drew you to the certain sessions you attended? What were some things that you were excited to learn about when you were coming to this conference?
Oh, all of the sessions sounded really good. So I don't know if it was necessarily one particular session, but I did love John Shu's presentation this morning. He's just so full of energy and like a love for books. And that was just a really energizing presentation. But all of them were Fantastic.
Well, and your students are lucky to have you. I know that you're going to go back to school refreshed and all excited about work. You've got a couple more weeks before the holidays. So let me ask, what is something that you are looking forward to doing in your space when you get home?
Ooh, okay. So I think the next thing I'm thinking about doing in my space is I have a group called Library Leaders, which is a group of students in our middle school and in our high school that help plan stuff for the library. So there have been a lot of things I've been taking away from this session that I want to talk with them about and kind of get their input and see kind of what they want to have happen in our library. So I know Julie Stivers had a thing called Lib5 that she talked about for students, and I want to talk to them about that.
Fantastic. Listen, I hope you have a great holiday, and thanks so much for being my roommate, because when you come to a conference, it's awfully nice if you can share some of this excitement. And I was grateful when you said, yeah, let's go ahead. I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Amy. I appreciate it too.
Well, hi, Amy. My name is Tracy Pearson. I am a coordinator in the DeKalb County School District. So we serve approximately 127 schools and centers. So a typical day for me may look like supporting our teacher librarians and seeing what they offer in their amazing spaces and how they are using our district resources to support the teachers in their building.
Well, and let me add, just for listeners who are tuning in, DeKalb County is in Georgia. So you didn't have far to go when it came to this conference. But let me ask you, when it comes to your day-to-day, what are some things that you have prioritized when it comes to making sure that your school librarians are supported in how they support their respective schools?
So in a way to support our teacher librarians, one of my main focuses was the professional development. So I'm always trying to ensure that they receive resources and things from vendors who support us so that they can take it back to their school community.
Do you feel that as a coordinator of this county's elementary school librarians, what are you doing to make sure that you don't experience the kind of turnover? I know that a lot of our new hires, it's really hard to keep those new hires. There's a teacher shortage everywhere. It can be a really sort of time they're struggling. What are you doing to make sure that your district doesn't experience any of this loss because of teacher burnout or because the rookies just are feeling overwhelmed?
So for our new hires, my coordinator partner, who is Miss Ebony Cleaves, we make sure that when we go out for school visits, that we're providing actual support. So when they need something and we can assist them, even if it involves hands-on work, not just telling them, but showing them and modeling for them, that is how we engage and try to keep our new hires.
Well, and I love that it's not just an email, because nothing is more unhelpful to me than an email that makes me feel foolish and regretting the fact that I reached out for help in the first place. I love that you go to them. Let me ask, you're here at this conference. Is there something you're excited to see or learn or do? Because this is a really neat opportunity to meet other school librarians.
I'm just excited about meeting all of the vendors and speakers like yourself and just learning some new things that I don't already know that I can take back to our teacher librarians and our library media assistants.
Tracy, I hope you have a great couple days. Listen, thank you so much and have a good holiday.
Thank you, Amy. It was a pleasure.
My name's Brene Ball. I am the media coordinator at Oak Grove High School in North Carolina. This is my 22nd year in education and my 18th in the Library Media Center. I'm in the largest high school in my county, which is just under 1,000 kids, which they're projecting us to be over next year. So it's very interesting and fun times.
Let me ask you, you went to this conference, what was it that you were hoping to get? And, what are you hoping to bring home to your students?
The biggest thing is I love the networking. I love meeting people from other places. And I always am excited about meeting authors. I'm like an author stalker. So loving to do that, but the biggest piece for me is the networking with people.
Absolutely, absolutely. I love connecting and then knowing that from now on, we're always going to be friends. All right. So I've got to ask you, because I didn't realize you have a secret identity. You have something of an alter ego, another life that you lead. And it's very unassuming because having we're in person. And if you told me to pick out the person in this room, it would not have been you. So please tell us, what do you do for fun when you are not a school librarian?
So my alter ego that surprises many of my students and staff members that I work with is that I am a volunteer firefighter, and I actually have been doing that for 23 years. And so I teach, I'm one of the fire educators and the digital content specialist for a department in Greensboro. And I get to teach the community about fire safety. But the cool thing about what I do is I get to travel all across the country teaching firefighters and other fire educators and community risk reduction specialists how to use technology in their programs to reach the community.
Okay, friends, not all heroes wear capes. This is wild.
They read books.
That's right. And this librarian, when she's not busy being a librarian, is busy supporting our firefighters as an educator. I'm so it makes a lot of sense though, because as a librarian, we support our community, and this is simply a continuation of what you already do.
It really is. That was the thing that happened about 15 years ago. I got asked by a really good friend. We've been team teaching in our communities for a long time. And she was like, hey, can you teach a session at the conference on that board thing that's in those classrooms that you touch? And I was like, are you talking about the smart board? And she's like, is that what it's called? That was the first time I taught a class to fire educators, and I've been doing it ever since.
Well, and I think what the message here is, friends, when people present an opportunity to us, we tend to say yes. I think it speaks to our generous spirit. I think it always says something about librarians who are willing to help, even if it is sort of outside of our purview. We're always willing to support each other. Let me ask you, we are at a very busy time of the year. We're wrapping things up. So you're going back to your school. You've got a couple more days left. What are some things you're looking forward to when it comes to your library space?
Right now, we are full on in holiday mode. So the media center, not only are we full blown in projects from podcasting to we're actually doing some AI integrated lessons with our students, which was really awesome from the conference to be able to get some ideas and bring them back to some of the classes that are these next couple days. But we're also, the kids are creating things in our makerspace to take home as gifts. And their favorite right this second, beyond the ugly Christmas sweater contest, is we're making yarn gnomes, and they're addicted. The kids keep coming in wanting more supplies.
Wow. All right. Listen, I will trade you a picture for a picture. I'm hoping that maybe you can share with us a picture of your yarn gnomes. That's outstanding. Brene, I am so grateful. Thank you so much. And I wish you a wonderful rest of 2024 and a Happy New Year.
You too.
So I'm Sarah Bayless. I'm the features editor for School Library Journal, and I helped organize some of these panels. I had the great honor of introducing some of our wonderful speakers today, and I'm going to introduce more of them tomorrow. And I'm also running the lightning sessions tomorrow. So fun has been had, and there's so much more fun ahead.
Well, and I'll tell you what, a lot of people tuning in right now have never been to SLJ Summit. And tell us a little bit about what SLJ has done to really put together a fantastic program where school librarians are really centered and the focus is always on us.
As you know, this gathering is just for school librarians. And this year we have a number of topics that are very important right now, ranging from the joy of reading to censorship, how we can fight it in the current climate, which in some people's minds has already reached the worst possible scenario, but January is still ahead. So there were opportunities for people to hear from John Praska about how to fight things on a legal level, on a state level. There were opportunities for librarians to strategize themselves. There's a lot of opportunity for librarians to gather and speak with each other as well as hearing from all these experts. And in the past, what we've heard is that that's what they want. They don't want it all to be sage on the stage, even if those people are fantastic as they all were today. So we give them reading inspiration. We give them John Shu. We give them John Kraska. We give them Julie and Julia talking about reading trauma and reading joy. And we give everyone the opportunity to do breakout sessions with people like yourself and then talk with each other about what they learned and bring it back to their libraries.
Well, and really what the lasting impact here is the networking that happens between the school librarians, those conversations which spark an interest, and we make those connections, and then we build on them in the years to follow. And sometimes all it was is, oh, I met you, when we were all in Raleigh at the SLJ Summit. So listen, Sarah, I hope you are able to enjoy the holidays. You're coming off of a real sort of whirlwind couple weeks getting everything pulled together. I hope you have a fantastic holiday. Thank you for everything you did to make this conference happen.
Thank you, Amy, for everything you do as well.
Hi, I'm Gina Seymour. I am the librarian at ISOP High School.
Fantastic. And listen, I was so glad to see you here because I think the last time we were in the same space, we were actually in Rome.
Yes, we were. We were enjoying the International Association of School Librarianship in Rome, Italy. And that was a wonderful experience.
Yes, the fantastic thing is that we arrived actually on my birthday. That whole trip was my own birthday present to myself. But, there was something absolutely remarkable about being in a room full of school librarians, but it was an international vibe.
Yes, and what was so special was that we were all the same, regardless of what country we came from. We had the same shared experiences, the same stories, and it really was a truly global, but it felt local in the same sense.
It absolutely did. And I'm not going to lie, I've never enjoyed lunch more than we did in Rome. And for the simple reason that we were absolutely encouraged to use that full hour to network over wine.
Yeah, that's just brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. It is very relaxing. And anytime I can have a glass of wine with lunch is a good day.
Well, and it makes you realize what we usually call lunch during the school year is really just more about performative. I'm eating something, and usually I'm working at the same time at trying to do 5 different things. So yeah, no, it was a lovely opportunity to connect with school librarians.
Now, a salad at your desk is not lunch in the Italian sense. No.
Yes, but a 3-course lunch was absolutely indulgent. You've been to these conferences before. Let me ask you, what is it that makes this conference so special?
I've been coming to School Library Journal Summit for probably 10 years now. And what I like most about it is that it is so small. The networking is excellent because you have enough time to talk to everyone and meet with vendors and really get to learn about products and services. And also, I find that SLJ puts forward excellent speakers, particularly policymakers, and that's very important to keep abreast of.
Absolutely. I learned so much from this morning's session. We are coming up on the holidays, and it is a time for celebration. Are you doing anything special in your space right now that you can share with listeners?
Well, we always have activities in our makerspace, particularly charity work or service work, because that's part of what I do. With my book, Makers with a Cause, we always have a slew of activities that students make for others or do work that supports the work of others in our community. So we have a lot of that going on.
Friends, I'm remiss. Gina is a published author, and your book, please go into a little more detail because I absolutely should have led with that, and I apologize. But you know what? You are a celebrity in your own right, a published author, and I know that your book has really done a lot to help people guide some of the direction in their maker spaces. Would you go into some detail, please?
Well, I am a big proponent of compassionate making, using your makerspace for for others, service projects and just helping others. So the book is called Makers with a Cause, Service Projects for Youth. And it's just a book on how to get started and a lot of projects in all different areas that you can implement in your library and work with students with. And if I can shamelessly plug my second book coming out February of 2025, Use Social Action, Cultivating Changemakers in the Library. Again, going back to that, promoting a sense of other, not just, learning or making for yourself, but taking the community and the world.
Well, and I love that because it is fairly common when we talk about the students we work with to call them a little self-absorbed. Did I say that? No, I said that. I absolutely said that. And I love anytime we can remind them of the greater need outside of their own. So, friends, we're going to have links in the show notes to both of Gina's books. And I really appreciate you sharing your time with us today. I hope you have a wonderful holiday.
Thank you so much. Happy holidays, everyone.
Hi, I'm Shaisha Watson, and I am the head librarian at an independent co-educational pre-K through 12 private school on Staten Island.
And what is it you'd like to share with listeners today?
Well, I would like to talk about how I get my students to check out.
Do tell.
So for me, I feel like something that's very important is knowing their names, and I make it my business to know student names. Once you know their names, you can build that connection, and they're more likely to open up to you when you know their names.
Well, and I know for facts that having gotten their names wrong, it also is not well received. So let me ask you, does this also include your students' nicknames or preferred names?
It absolutely does. I do ask them, what would you like me to call you?
Wow. And I'm sure that they appreciate that because all too often, if we're going off of the name on the roster, or that can sometimes really tell them right away that you haven't made that personal connection.
That is true. And I feel like learning names and learning their personal names is all about inclusion. And I forgot to mention that I'm also a part of the diversity team as well. So belonging is also a big part of it.
Well, let's talk about that. What are you doing in your space to make sure that when your students come, it is student-centered?
Well, I try to make it as cozy as possible. At one point, we did have some beanbags, but kids like to hide. So making it comfortable for them. I'm trying not to be so much in their space. I see them, but trying to keep a distance, but still be present, I think is important.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Let me ask you, when it comes to building out your collection or your programs, are there things that you've done specifically to address the needs of your students?
Well, I like to ask the kids, what do you want? What would you like to see? And that's what I tend to order.
Ooh, very, very fun. Well, what is flying off the shelves at your school right now?
Well, the series like Dogman, Five Nights at Freddy's, and of course, graphic novels. They can't get enough of that.
Absolutely. And let me ask you, do you have manga in your collection at all?
Absolutely. And then I have databases as well, like Comics Plus, to bridge that gap.
Fantastic. Now, am I correct that you have a K-12 library, or are they two different spaces?
Well, right now, my library is actually going through a renovation. So we had a space where one side was for lower school, one side was for middle, and then in between for upper school and our faculties.
Wow. So let me ask, at what point are you going to get to move back into your space? Because I'm sure that you are excited for the renovation, but it's always a little messy.
It absolutely will be messy, but I am hopeful that next school year more are situated.
Well, congratulations. It sounds like you've landed well. You're in a great spot. I hope you have a great holiday. Let me ask you, are you planning anything when you get back? You've got a couple weeks left before break.
When I get back, it is supposed to be a tie. So it's the last day, but fair. It is waiting for me. And once I get there, we will be unpacked.
Well, I wish you all the best in the world. I know that can take a lot, but it's so necessary, and the kids love it. So much for sharing today.
Likewise, thank you.
I'm Nicole Ruhi. I'm from Decatur High School in Decatur, Georgia, which is right next to Atlanta. I've been a librarian. This is my 24th year, my second year in Decatur. I've also been a librarian in Alaska, couple places in Georgia, but at Acres, Alaska, and middle school. I've done pre-K all the way up to high school.
Wow. So let me ask you, because you were in Alaska, what would surprise people who have never taught in Alaska when it comes to being a librarian in a school in Alaska?
Well, I'll say one thing about Alaska. Anchorage is an incredibly diverse school district, one of the most diverse in the country, which I think people wouldn't, expect that. The Anchorage School District was incredibly supportive of librarians, and it was a very well-run school district, and it was just a pleasure to be a librarian there.
I had a chance to meet a couple. I was in Alaska for their conference in this past August. It was absolutely amazing. And I could see that for some people, depending on where you are in what chapter of your life, and you want to live in this amazing place with this backyard, incredible. But you would recommend to anybody tuning in to consider moving to Alaska?
Definitely, I would consider Anchorage. I left several years ago, but it was a great place to be a librarian. I found the state as a whole was very supportive of all librarians. As they say, Anchorage is only half an hour from Alaska, so you got probably all the benefits of Alaska, too.
Exactly. What is it that brought you to this conference? It's a very different kind of conference.
This is the second time I've been to this conference. I got to do it when I was up in Alaska, and I got some professional development. I'm in a new district, and they actually support professional development. So I asked my principal, I said, this is a great conference. Will you pay for my hotel and my gas money for driving over here? And he did. And I have to say, so far I'm very inspired. There's a lot of stuff that I'm looking forward to taking back.
Absolutely. Let me ask you, what is it you want to share with listeners today?
One of the workshops I really enjoyed was about the science of reading versus the joy of reading. And I got so much out of that because, of course, libraries are all about supporting reading. And we're not teaching reading, but we're just trying to make students fall in love with books through many different avenues. And I think somebody really summed it up. The woman sitting next to me summed it up really well. That reading teachers are trying to get rid of illiteracy, and librarians are trying to get rid of illiteracy. So, which I think is a perfect way to do it. It's there are so many students in my school who know how to read but don't. And really, my goal is just to get more students to read, more students come to the library, see what is available, see everything that can change their life.
Is there a strategy that has worked especially for you when it comes to being that person who encourages students to read?
I think really the main thing is you need to think about your role as a service role. You serve everybody. You serve the teachers, you serve the students for sure, administration, all the staff. And I really try to create a welcoming environment. Always have a smile on my face, always ask people what they need for help. Students who are just looking lost, can I help you find a book? I'd love to connect students to books. I don't have fines, which most libraries don't at this point, but, just encouraging students to check out as much as they want, as frequently as they want, learning their names as soon as I can, trying to figure out what it is they like to read. So when they come, I can be like, hey, I found something else you like. If I know they're looking for a book, getting it and walking it up to their classroom, that actually always makes me really happy because it makes them happy.
Meeting the kid where they are, going up to their classroom saying, oh, I have this book to drop off. And the rest of the class is like, well, how'd you get them to do that? It was like a special delivery.
Exactly. It's like a present, or when we get new books, I'll be like, hey, look what we got. And, come look through what we have.
put your name on a sticky note and I can check it out to you.
Well, and I'll be honest, I'm a high school librarian, and when I had some new books come in, I actually took screenshots. I was holding a couple books for my students. I said, hey, when you have a chance, these are waiting for you. And I do have students who will check their school emails.
That is a great idea.
Listen, Nicole, I'm so grateful you shared with us today. I hope you have a fantastic rest of the conference and happy holidays.
Well, thank you. And it was really nice to meet you, Amy.
I'm Megan Kester. I'm from Jacksonville, North Carolina. I teach at Meadowview Elementary School, and I have the most amazing library space.
I'm so excited. So let me ask, if I were lucky enough to go and visit you at your library, what is it that really stands out as making it so special?
It's just the center of the school. We're in a big square, and so everything sort of leads back to the library, and it's what I tell everybody that visits. If you get lost, keep walking and come find me.
Fantastic. And what do you want to share with listeners today?
One of my favorite ways to collaborate with teachers or get teachers to collaborate with me is to ask them what they're not looking forward to teaching.
That's genius. Because I'm going to guarantee you, it doesn't matter where you are in your teaching journey, there is something that you are absolutely dreading doing. And least of all, doing it several times because you have to teach a class multiple times.
Right. So when I ask that question, there's always something, and then we can work together to get something a little more hands-on or something that we can use a bigger space, such as the library, to teach that. And I don't have any problems collaborating with them.
Well, and I found that sometimes I've got some of my brand new rookie babies who are like, is there something you're teaching for the very first time? And it's usually their entire schedule.
Yes.
And I was so like, let me help. But it's never a bad idea to go up to those veteran teachers and say, what is it you've been teaching for, and I quote, forever, that you would like to do a little differently?
Yeah. And again, that's something that they're probably tired of teaching or, need a little refreshing. And so they're very eager to come collaborate. And the nice thing about that is once you get the veteran teachers in, then sort of everybody else follows. So it's given me a great opportunity to collaborate with my teachers.
Well, and I love the idea of providing them with resources they didn't know about. And especially when we have a chance to sort of boost some of those underutilized resources that oftentimes we pay for.
Absolutely. I work closely with our TLTF, who is our digital teaching facilitator, and we try to incorporate a lot of technology in the things that we do. So when a teacher's ready to collaborate, that's one of the things we try to bring in. We use Sphero a lot, the Legos.
Are really grateful for all the help that you provide for them. But there are certain teachers who are absolutely reticent about coming down to your space?
I am lucky enough to work in a school that is very open to all those things. Like I've worked really hard, and they worked really hard to create a space that, it's more of a community than isolation. We're a little more of a family, I guess. So I haven't run into that in a long time since I first started. And trying to get people to know who I was.
Well, it sounds like your school is awfully lucky to have you. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a great holiday.
Thank you so much. You too, Amy.
I am Carolyn Foote. I'm a retired librarian who's one of the co-founders of Texas Freedom Fighters, and I'm also an instructor at the University of Texas. And so my message is for first-year librarians, and that is there's so many aspects to the job, so you need to first off set some goals, use the future-ready model or something, pick a piece of the pie that you want to work on, but don't expect perfection the first year or two. You're learning, give yourself grace, seek a mentor or two that can support you, use social media for ideas, and stay in the profession because we need you so much.
Can I ask you, can you just right now give a boost to the Freedom Fighters and where our listeners can find you on social? You've been doing groundbreaking, absolutely vitally important work in the area of advocacy and defending our students' access to books. And I hope someday that I'd love to have a longer conversation with you and your team. But I'll tell you what, just for now, let listeners know, where can we find the Freedom Fighters and all the resources that you make available?
Sure. So we are on all the socials at Freedom Fighters. It's FREADOM Fighters. And we have a website that's TexasFreedomFighters.us. It's TX freedomfighters.us, where we have a whole resource page with how to speak to a school board and what to say about librarians. And we have a student who wrote something for what students can do about book banning. And our work is really around uplifting librarians, students, teachers, and the power of diverse books.
Well, and friends, I'll be sure to put a link in today's show notes. I like your wearable advocacy because I reserve one day of the week to wear my advocacy, and your T-shirt is one in regular rotation that I wear, especially when my superintendent is coming to visit the school. Carolyn Foote, you are a legend in this profession. I do hope we cross paths soon. Have a wonderful holiday and safe trip home.
Thank you so much, and thanks for all you do to get out the word about libraries. It's awesome.
I'm Christine Jensen, and I work at the Ligon Middle School Library. I love my students. It's located in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Yeah. So you have the shortest commute to the conference. You win the prize.
I do. You know, it was only 20 minutes to the conference. You can't beat that.
Absolutely not. It took me longer to drive from the airport here. So let me ask you, what do you want to share with listeners today?
Sure. I want to share a great organizational hack. So this is actually not my hack, but it's from another librarian, Kalina Okazaki, works in California. And she has 3 major walls that she puts butcher paper up on, and then all of them are labeled with her to-do list. So one is like hot, and you put a bunch of sticky notes with all the things that you're doing right away or have to get done right away. You have your back burner list where you can put your sticky notes for things that you thought you were going to do, but maybe not now. You have like an aspirational goal list. So those are those things that you see on Facebook or Pinterest. But you don't have time now, but you don't want to forget about them. And then the last one actually is accomplishment. So when you finish your sticky note off your hot list, you put it on your accomplishment. And then you have those moments where you feel depressed or that you haven't done enough for your students. You can look at your list and know that you're doing your best.
This is genius, and it's low tech. I do like low tech, and also sounds very cost effective. It would not be hard to replicate this in any work setting. I love that. Thank you so much. Listen, you're going back to school with all of these great ideas. What's something you're taking back to your space that you learned here at SLJ?
Something I really enjoyed was the science of reading session. I think something that I struggle with a lot is imposter syndrome. And so sometimes I feel like, can I really make a difference? And that session really helped me understand that, yes, our role is to promote the joy of reading. And of course, there is a science of reading, but we do fit into that. And our jobs really do matter and make a difference.
Absolutely. Have a great holiday and safe trip home.
Thanks so much.
Hi, my name is Linda Dextre. I am a teacher librarian at Middle Peak High School in Raleigh, North Carolina, technically Apex. I am now a 4th year high school librarian and spent the previous 17 years as a middle school librarian.
We're like twins. I did 14 years in elementary. Now I'm in my 4th year of high school, still catching up with all that YA. That's why we have audiobooks. All right, so tell me, what is it you want to share with listeners today?
So as a new librarian, it was a challenge to collaborate because there was a culture that was already embedded into the community, and I needed to figure out how I was going to get my foot in the door. So I focused primarily on the ICA teaching. It's the ESL teachers, the OCS, ECS, OCS teachers, the ones that are kind of in their own island and don't have a team to collaborate with. And once I started doing lessons that are technology integrated lessons with those teachers and took some of the burden off of their daily planning and their daily interactions and having an extra adult in the room in these situations was very beneficial.
One of the things I love to do is to be the new work colleague for our hires in the middle of the year. So our folks, because we have some turnover in the middle of the year for whatever reason, and you get those folks who are brand new to the building, but it's now in the middle of the year. And if they're going to feel like they're perpetually in catch up, that to me is like an opportunity to make some inroads with somebody who may be a veteran teacher, but they're certainly not veteran to that building. So they could always use a little welcome wagon, if you will.
Yes, and I feel that also in the same vein that we need the library to be a welcoming, safe landing space for students, but we also need it to be a welcoming, safe landing space for our teachers and administrators and, the crying room for people to come in and just get it all out in a safe place where we won't spread the sorrow elsewhere. And I feel like building those communities are really important too.
Absolutely. And sometimes I really love being a department of one because I'm sort of like Switzerland. You don't have any allegiance to anybody. So you aren't part of that sort of catty and petty and sort of the competitive nature that can be within a department.
Yes. I have a sign on my door that says that what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. And so, teachers understand that they can come in and unload and it won't go anywhere else.
I imagine your staff loves working with you and your teachers are appreciative of the professionalism with which you handle all of their issues. I hope you have a safe trip home and a wonderful holiday.
It's wonderful to see you, and thank you so much for what you do for school libraries.
Hi, I'm Katie Moose, and I work here in North Carolina in a suburban high school outside of the Charlotte area. We have about 1,800 students and over 150 staff members, so they keep me pretty busy on a day-to-day basis.
Well, and fantastic. What is it you want to share with listeners today?
Well, I would strongly encourage people, if they've never come to SLJ Summit, to absolutely come and visit, because it was such a great opportunity to hear from people who I follow on social media and see online, but to actually get to hear and see them speak in person. We were so lucky this year to have John Shu, who I've heard before, but he's always fantastic, and Michael Threets, who is such a positive and affirming voice in libraries and the library community. So it's just great to be here with all these people sharing their information and sharing their love and sharing their joy. And for most of us, we're islands in our building. We're all by ourselves. So it's nice to be in a room of like-minded people who all agree and we all support and we all love and find joy in the same things.
Well, and somebody said, "Oh, you're going to go be with your people." And I was like, yes, I'm going to be surrounded by people who do exactly what I do and understand what I do.
Yes, it is. It is so much fun. Yes, we connect here. Because we're local, we had so many of our local librarians come and visiting us. And so it was great. So great to see people back like you, Amy. We're so happy you're back here in our state with us after being at our conference and being our speaker. So it's just been great and it's been awesome. But so just I have fun, great ideas that everyone has shared and some wonderful information. So yeah.
Let me ask you, I'm going to put you on the spot. We've got 2025 just around the corner. You and I have never had a dedicated episode together, but I would love to tap your expertise. Would you promise to join me next year in an episode that we can share with listeners?
Sure, I would love to. Yes, because I love listening and I love hearing, and you've already spoken to some of our wonderful librarians who are in the state, so I'd love to help contribute and help listeners out there hopefully find some fun, some resources, some engagement, some joy, and just everything we love about libraries.
Well, and if it weren't for librarians like yourself who are willing to share, this podcast would have ended 6 years ago because it was a solo effort that first season and a little lonely. So I'll be honest, I am grateful to people who are generous in sharing their resources and their expertise. I look forward to our conversation in 2025.
I know. I'm so excited. So I hope you have a great holiday, Amy, and I hope everyone has a great holiday and a great 2025 as we head into the year ahead.
Thanks so much.
I am Hallie, and I am an elementary school librarian in Louisville, Kentucky, at Louisville, PJ, which is an independent school.
What would you like to share with listeners today?
Well, I know just how much joy there is in the library and in reading books. I think people forget what it's like to be little and finding the joy when you do find that perfect book that just opens everything up to you and makes a whole new world for you.
I taught elementary for 14 years, and I think one of the kids, my kids used to call it shopping. We're going to go shopping, and they didn't have anybody else telling them what to get. So this was an opportunity for them to really exercise their what interests them and their choice.
I absolutely agree. It's like one of the only spaces I feel like kids get to really be themselves, and nobody else can tell them what they're picking is not what they should get. Like, I really try to make it a space that theirs. That's what it's about. So
I love that. Well, and I'm sure that you communicate that with your teaching staff, with your administrators. I'm sure that the vibes are good in your space.
yes, 100%. I do feel like I've really focused on that. And when teachers push back, look, they are wonderful, but sometimes they have one goal in mind. But the library is the space for the kids. It's not my space. It's their space and their choices.
Well, and students really do need an advocate in this when it comes to choice, especially because they are little. And you, as their advocate, that I can't think of a better way to make sure that students get what they need to read. Listen, you're a trooper. We are in the airport right now. We've just gone through security. And I kind of tackled you into, hey, do you want to be one of our last, recordings on this episode? But thank you so much. Listen, I hope you have a great holiday, safe trip home. And tell me, what is something you're excited about implementing from SLJ when you get home to your library?
Ooh, there were so many things. Literally so many things. I went to the session about edgy books, which applies more, I feel like, to middle and high, but I really just appreciated the conversation surrounding parents' concerns or people's concerns about kids reading edgy books. But again, it's a kid's choice, and they don't even get the same thing out of a book that we as adults might get out of it. So I'm excited to take that back, and it just made me think a lot about how we as adults view certain books when kids are completely different. Their minds are not the same, and we have to always keep that at the top of our mindset.
I feel like, because this is my first SLJ Summit, so I am a better librarian. It doesn't matter what I do moving forward. The fact that I've spent the last 2 days surrounded by school librarians, my school is going to be benefiting from my experience here. I hope you have a great holiday. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you. You too. I'm Tori. I'm from Louisville, Kentucky. I work at a K-12 independent school in Louisville. This is my second year in my current role. Before that, I was L&D jury, and before that, a public librarian.
Wow, you made the switch into schools. That's fantastic. So let me ask you, what do you want to share with listeners today?
I think just having transitioned into a new role, I was really worried about going from the little kids to the bigger kids, and how was that going to go? The last librarian looked kind of suddenly, so I was like, oh my goodness, these kids are going to be so stressed out, and they're going to see me there, and they're going to be questions with their old librarian to sit there. And I think that looking back, what I would recommend, to anyone who's going anxious is just work on those relationships, and everything else will follow.
Wow. So let me ask, you were teaching littles. You're now with the secondary students. All right. So what has been the biggest adjustment for you? Because I went from 14 years elementary to now high school, and it was a bit of a transition. So let me ask, how is it going for you?
I love it. I absolutely love it. The littles were amazing. But you can really have in-depth conversations with the older kids, and it was freeing in many ways. I didn't realize how much I was constantly running everything through a filter of, okay, let me filter this down to a place where they can understand it. As librarians, we talk about some fairly high-level concepts. And so you've got to think, okay, what do they need to know at this age and stage? And how can I make it chunkable that they can actually make sense of it? And then I did not have to do that so much with the older kids. You're always trying to make it approachable and understandable. But I felt like I didn't have to work quite so hard anymore.
Well, and I'm going to tell you, when I taught elementary, I missed sarcasm. I could not use sarcasm. They did not. It went over 90% of their heads. And you could always tell who the students were, who were the youngest in their families. They had learned about sarcasm. But I had a lot of kids who would just well up and cry if you said something that they really didn't understand. You're like, dude, I'm being sarcastic.
Yeah, they would give me looks. I'm a sarcastic person. It slips out every now and then. I didn't have any burst into tears, luckily, but there would be some just completely blank looks at, what are you talking about? Are you serious? What? Huh? And then I'm like, oh, wait, no, I was kidding. I probably should rephrase that.
Listen, I hope you have a fantastic holiday, a safe trip home. Thank you so much for sharing with us today. I really appreciate you taking out time here in security to talk with me about your time with SLJ Summit.
Thank you so much.
Friends, if you found this episode helpful, please share it out via teen, your PLN, and on social media. Be sure to follow on your favorite podcatcher so you'll never miss an episode. And if you really like listening today, consider leaving a review wherever you listen to podcasts. Reviews help others find us. Be sure to visit Learnics at www.learnics.com to learn more and schedule a demo. If you mention that you heard about Learnics on School Librarians United podcast, you will receive 20% off your subscription. Use the code UNITED to take advantage of Capstone's generous $20 discount off an order of $100 or more. See the link in today's show notes. And be sure to tune in on Friday, December 20th for episode 300 and our very last episode of 2024. We will be discussing a brand new book, Mongo Goes to School, and my conversation with the school librarians and authors of Mongo Goes to School, Ashley Hopkins, Emily Radica, Sarah Smith, Julie Stivers, and Muna Touré. I hope you will tune in.